so that we can make this available to those who were unable to join us today. Okay, well, good. I'll start over. I'm Angie Pilgrim. I'm the Director of Community Impact for the St. Croix Valley Foundation. And just a huge thank you to everyone who's attending today and watching later for taking the time in what I know is a very busy nonprofit schedule to be here to learn. And I also want to thank Angie in advance for delivering the training today. So thank you. Just a real quick overview of the St. Croix Valley Foundation. So the St. Croix Valley Foundation is a regional community foundation. We're actually located in Hudson, Wisconsin, but we serve a 6-county region. We were founded in 1995 to enhance the quality of life in the St. Croix Valley. We support 10 completely volunteer-run affiliated foundations, and those are located in 6 counties throughout the St. Croix Valley. That's Chisago and Washington counties in Minnesota, and then we cross the river and serve 4 counties here in Wisconsin, Burnett, Polk, St. Croix, and Pierce counties in Wisconsin. One of the ways we live out our mission of enhancing the quality of life in the Valley is to support nonprofits. And we do that both through grant dollars as well as professional development and capacity building. So along those lines, back in 2017, we launched a program we call Consultants in Service, or CIS. And the idea of CIS is to help small and emerging nonprofits by matching their sometimes very unique needs with experts, and those experts then volunteer their time back to the nonprofit. We do everything from strategic planning to board development. I remember one match where a treasurer really needed help with QuickBooks, and so we were able to match him with an expert. So it's a little bit of everything. And if you're interested, you can find a really straightforward application for the Consultants in Service program available on our website, scvfoundation.org. Once that application is completed and sent to me, we then do a matching process and match you with the most qualified volunteer consultant. So that's how it works. If you're interested in learning more, please don't hesitate to email me or give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about it. So thanks again for being here. I am now really happy to introduce Angela. So Angela her current role is program manager with University of Wisconsin River Falls Continuing Education. Again, she's Angela Whitaker. She has her Master of Science, is well versed in all aspects of the program planning process, and brings more than 19 years of experience with educational and enrichment programs and events for youth and adults. Angela, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. Good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. I know lunchtime and springtime are 2 kind of really difficult times to commit to because the sun comes out and we kind of lose our minds. So thank you for that good introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And as I'm doing so, just give me a little patience here. I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, I know what I'm doing, except I lost this. Then I found that. Perfect. Perfect. So as Angie said, I'll be Angela today for today's purposes, so we can keep Angie and Angela straight. I'm a lifelong resident of the St. Croix Valley, and today I've been asked to share my expertise in program planning. So it's been almost 20 years now with the Continuing Education Office at UW River Falls, where I have spent my time developing programs, running existing programs. I help with large conferences, smaller meetings and events. I've had booths at trade shows, done summer camps for kids, community lecture series, all kinds of things. It must be work I really enjoy since I've been here almost 20 years. And I'm excited to share that with you today. hopefully my enthusiasm isn't overwhelming. I'll knock you out with information and too much. So raise your hand or give a shout if you're just like, whoa, tap out. We got to slow down. So please feel free to do that. So I've called today's series Navigating the Maze of Program Development. Where am I? I am not with you. Hang on. Yes, I am. A little technical difficulty. Angie had some of those earlier today. It was just my turn. So as I mentioned earlier, program planning has kind of become second nature. I could talk about it for hours, but we only have an hour today. So I've created an overview of the key elements. I'm going to sprinkle in some tips and tricks, and I hope that you leave today with some information, some extra skills, and some confidence to tackle your next programming challenge with less frustration and great success. So that's today's takeaways. I've titled this Navigating the Maze because it really is a maze to develop programs. It's a lot more work than people realize. And so just going into it, have patience, embrace transparency, bring your perseverance. Those things will serve you well because this isn't linear. You're going to face intertwined elements, shifts and changes of direction, multiple decision points, just like a maze. You're going to go down a path and go, oh, whoops, I can't get through here. I better turn around. So stay adaptive, ask a lot of questions, assume that everyone has positive intent. We all want this to work out well. Stay curious. It's going to feel messy. It's going to feel disorganized. You're going to go back and forth, but you will go forward. So that's good. The program planning life cycle, like I said, is pretty complicated. You're going to go back and forth. You're going to go around and around, but I tried for today's purposes to break it into 4 main segments. It's kind of a roller coaster ride too, thus the photo. So our 4 main segments today, we're going to choose a program to pursue. You're going to define those program details. You're going to deliver the actual program. Then you're going to wrap it up, close it out, and pack it up for next time. And like I mentioned, in practice, during the actual life cycle of the programming, you're going to do some things out of order. You're going to go back and forth. You're going to make some changes. You're going to skip some steps. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, but you can do it. Let's get started with program selection. That's kind of where this all begins. Even if you start in the middle and go back, you really do need to spend the time to select your program. You're going to have probably more programming ideas than you can implement, kind of like this pile of rocks. They're all rocks, but which one's the right one? What's going to resonate with your audience? So the way to navigate through this, you're going to be well served by a series of driving questions, teasing out different details that will help you arrive. We've got someone in our waiting room. Hang on. Got it? We will get back to my train of thought. We're talking about questions. You're going to have a series of questions, the who, the what, the why, the how. These questions are going to help you arrive at your final iteration. One quick tip before we go into program selection. I'm going to jump around a little bit, try not to lose you too much. One of my favorite things to do is keep a file of ideas. So you might read an article, you might see a web page, you might catch some whisper of information or something that people have done. Maybe you'll have a sketch of an idea, a neat brainstorming session. You'll have some notes on a napkin from a time you just had this great idea. Keep all that stuff. Maybe a board member is going to shoot you a suggestion or something of that nature, but keep these things in some type of file that you can go back to and revisit, because you might see a theme, things might come up. It might help you answer some of these who, what, when, where, why, how questions that we're going to tackle. So I see, perfect, free, reading the chat. She says, use the chat. Okay, so driving questions. Let's just dive in. Let you look at the screen and see. When you're presented with a program or an idea, you're trying to do this. What are you going to do? What is that program idea? Is it doable? Can we even do this? Do you have the necessary resources to make it successful? Think about the time that you have, that your staff has, that your volunteers have. Do you have the right kind of speakers or people in your circles that can help make this successful? Do you have the right kind of facilities? Will you have to rent them? Is it realistic? Is this program going to resonate with your audience? So yeah, is it doable? The next thing that I think is really helpful is to consider your why. What is your why? What's the purpose of this program? How does it fit within the mission, the vision, the values of your organization? Does it serve your stakeholders, the community you serve, the staff, the volunteers, the board? Does it serve these people? And how does the program accomplish your goal? Consider like the wider context, the culture of your community or the cultures within your stakeholders, the wider environment. Is everyone offering a similar speaker series? It'd be better to choose a different approach, or maybe you want to offer to partner. Or maybe it's something fun, like a bingo fundraiser that can support a whole bunch of people doing bingo. I mean, I've done purse bingo, cash bingo. I heard there's bottle bingo. You can win a bottle of something unique and fun. So just kind of think about the why, think about the purpose, think about, is it doable? Again, this is a whole myriad maze of questions. Every time you answer and think about these things, it's going to help you drive where you want to go. Looking at more questions. Technical difficulties, my apologies. Here we go. We talked about, is it doable? We talked about what you want to accomplish, looking at the wider environment. What's the context of all this stuff? Well, then we really need to think about who is this target participant? Who do you want to have come to the program? What problem or need are you trying to solve? Is this the best way? Is this program that you're thinking of? Is this the best way to engage with that audience? Will this get the results that you want? And then thinking again to your stakeholders, to your partners, who is going to make this a success? How is this going to be successful? You have the right people. Again, these feel like repeat questions, but you need to keep asking them. You need to keep answering them, and it will help you arrive to the very next piece, which is, now that you've chosen a program, what are the details? How are we going to get to the details of the program itself? So I mentioned trying to break down the whole life cycle into choosing your program, defining those details of that program, actually delivering your program, and then wrapping up. So we just kind of talked a little bit about how do we choose a program. Now we've chosen our program. We've got a giant pile of sticky notes, and we're going to make our way through designing this for the best success. The way to do that is to define some outcomes, build your budget to avoid some surprises, decide on all the logistics, map out marketing plan or a way that you're going to spread the word, and then plan an assessment so that you can measure your success, so that you can collect information that you can use to do this even better next time. So I mentioned defining your program outcomes. Seems like a big deal, but you've already kind of talked about this when you're asking all those driving questions from before. Restate what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what people are going to learn, or the changes or the impacts that are going to result from your program. Then check in with yourself and your team. Is your program designed to actually achieve these outcomes? Hopefully. Having those defined outcomes to come back to as you move along, you kind of get lost and stumble, kind of take it back to that outcome. Are we doing this? Is this what we wanted to do? Are we meeting that need? Another big thing in defining your program details is setting your budget. You're going to want to create and track a budget. I love a good spreadsheet. I estimate my expenses. I track my actuals. You can hide and sort, and you can include things that are given to you in kind. You can include volunteer hours. A budget sheet also kind of helps me remember things I might have forgot in this busy, chaotic start, stop, nope, change your mind, move around scenario. The budget is kind of a little bit of a map or a foundational piece as well. And if you ever decide to seek grant funding or other support, this budget is going to be a key element in being able to do that and do that easily in the future. Once you have a template or something that works for you, it's great. I usually use that as my starting point to do the next one. So it's worth the investment of time to define a budget tool that is going to work for you. Let's see, where are we at? We are here with logistics. So you've got your program objectives, you've got a budget, and then you want to dive into the logistical details, which I think we think it's easy. We think, anyway, it's worth sitting down and just hammering through all of those logistics. Where are you going to have your program? Is it appropriate for your audience? So think of the building location, how big it is. Do they have comfortable chairs? Is the parking anywhere near where the people are going to need to get to? I worked with a lecture series for seniors, and the parking was atrocious. They had to walk, probably the equivalent of a block or 2 blocks. It was too far. And there were only a handful of handicap parking spaces. And I had more than a handful of attendees that needed those spaces. Then we get them in the room and they all want to use the bathroom. Well, I have a 2-seat bathroom and it's not well marked. It's a really confusing building. And then my chairs were uncomfortable. So it was like, oh my goodness. So know your audience, think about, is the place that you're going to have this, is this going to suit their needs? The other thing to think about is staffing and volunteers. What kinds of hands-on involvement are you going to need to make this program successful? And plan for a little bit of extra and plan for some backup, because things happen, especially in a volunteer realm. You may not have everyone arrive that says they're going to be there. And if you're working with seniors, those folks came an hour before the event just to make sure they could get parked, pottied, and in their seat that they wanted before the event even started. So it was a learning curve for sure. What time are you going to start your meeting, end your meeting? And then, like I said, build up that buffer. You're going to have somebody come early. You're going to have somebody hang late. Do you want people to register in advance? Are you going to want people to have name tags? Because it's helpful if they register, because then they can make name tags so they can write them when they get there. How are you going to know that you have enough seats for everybody, or food, or parking, or handouts, or all those things? Think through these actual logistical details. If you're having a PowerPoint or something overhead, what kind of technology is there? Does your speaker know how to use it? Do any of you know how to use it? Is there staff at your facility that you're using that can help you with this? Think through all of those logistics. So you've got your program objectives, you've got a budget, you figured out your who, what, when, where, all the details logistically. Well, now, how are you going to get the word out? You're planning a great program, but it's only great if people actually attend. And I'll give you a warning, marketing can be overwhelming and very expensive. So I encourage you to get creative with activities that make use of the communications that you already have in place. Think of your website, think of your printed newsletters or your email blasts, your social media posts. Maybe you have other events, or your friends in the neighborhood have other events. Can they make an announcement about yours? Could you get a news release in the newspaper? Is there an online event calendar within your When I say friends and family, I mean other organizations that you sometimes partner with. We don't all do these things alone independently. We often partner with the public library, with the community ed in the neighborhood, all those kinds of things. Think of all of those outlets as ways to get the word out. If you're a member at the local chamber, and if you're not, I recommend looking into that. Consider the benefits of your membership and ways that the chamber might be able to help you get the word out as well. So getting creative with activities, things of that nature, you also need to think about who your intended audience is. Who is it that you're trying, who do you want to have come to the event, and how do they get their information? So my senior program, as an example, they're not necessarily on Facebook. They don't even really want emails. Boy, those folks loved their postcards in the mail. They loved their written things. So know who you're trying to target and the ways in which they communicate, because it might not be the way that you think. Another quick tip is that you can't one and done with marketing. People often need to see things 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times before they'll remember it and commit to it. It's another way that registration of sorts is helpful. Or if you're into, if your audience is well served on the Facebook realm, having some level of interest for them to click on, things like that can help you get some information to know if your message is being received and things of that nature. Are you tired yet? This is a lot. So we've got our marketing done now. The next thing we want to do before our event comes is consider assessment. My colleagues will say that assessment is probably the most important part of the planning, in addition to selecting the right program, then assessing afterwards. I didn't have a whole lot of information here to share today. I think that different events have different needs when it comes to assessment, and I think it's overwhelming. So I'm just going to kind of give a little bit and put a pin in it and just invite you to reach out if that's something that you would like to explore with me at another time. Essentially, assessment helps you know if you achieved your outcomes, if you met your objectives. Assessment can be a meeting after your event where everybody that's been involved sits down and says, what went well, what didn't, things like that. You may want to survey your participants. Well, what questions do you ask? Well, that's a whole different, it gets complicated, but think about what it is that you want to know. What will help, what information do you need to help you know if you want to do this event again, if you want to make some changes in the future. Think in terms of your stakeholders. Maybe your board wants a report out on this program or event. What kinds of information do you think would help tell the story and help support the importance of your event and doing it again? Things of that nature. So assessment, it's important. Don't forget about it. You don't necessarily have to overthink it, but do consider it as you're planning your program details. So you've picked the right program, you've planned out all the details. Now it's go time. It is time to actually jump into your event. Are you ready? Are you ready? If not, you're ready anyway. I swear by a detailed agenda. I have like my agenda and I have the agenda maybe that the participants will get, but on my detailed agenda, it's kind of also a task list. I have defined timelines. I have people assigned to certain roles. I have contact information included on there. It is absolutely a must-have for me. In addition to the agenda, I kind of have like a pre-agenda. So let's say you need to pick up flowers the night before or make confirmations to all of your presenters. What are the little tiny tasks and things that have to be done in advance? Make sure that those are on your task list as well and assigned to someone. Also, when you make assignments, it's good to have a backup. So again, if somebody is ill or whatever, you know, just make sure someone's waiting in the wings. You just never know when somebody's going to get tied up with something and not able to be in two places at once. On the actual day of your program, I mentioned this before, make sure that somebody arrives early, make sure you have access to the space, make sure it's set up the way that you wanted it to Do you have somebody assigned to take pictures? It's probably a good idea too, to take pictures of the setup, all those little details, take pictures during the event, take pictures after the event. You just never know. Pictures are a wonderful way to tell your story later as well. It's a lot easier than coming up with a clever Facebook tagline if you've got a great picture. So don't forget to do those. Let's see. Now, while you're at your event, you may have within your organization, maybe there's somebody left back at the office. It's going to get bombarded with questions, things like that. Make sure that everyone within your organization is aware of the details, can direct the inquiries as needed. I usually print my agenda, hang it on the outside of my door, put it on the refrigerator in the break room. I email it to everybody so that they have it. I just like everyone to know what's happening so they feel like they can support any questions or problems or things that arise. You just never know. Sometimes, like, I'm on campus security will call and want to know where I'm at right at that very moment. Well, the agenda will help kind of pinpoint some of those things. Then I also mentioned contact information. So if you don't have it in your phone, if you don't have it on your agenda, you can type out a list or something, but make sure you know all the phone numbers. It seems silly, but at the venue that you're at, somebody's cell phone as opposed to their office phone, a lot of times well, maybe not so much today because a lot of us are remote, but there once was a time when we only had office information and we had to exchange that personal information. Make sure that you can communicate with people as you need to. You can print that out and carry it in your pocket, actually make a couple copies, make sure you can access it a few different ways, because invariably somebody needs information. I'll hand them mine and then what? Then I don't have it. So it's okay to have more. One of my absolute must-haves for the program delivery day, I call it my jump bag. A bag with scissors, sticky notes, tape, markers, a safety pin. You just don't know. Plain paper and markers. I might have to make a sign, if the entrance isn't obvious, or use this door, or don't use this door, or you don't know what's going to come up, but you can kind of identify, well, you might want to make a sign. Somebody might have forgot their pen. The speaker might have some wardrobe malfunction and need a pin. It actually happened. Within my jump bag, also, I have like ibuprofen, a couple extra bottles of water, a couple Band-Aids, like a basic first aid kit. Some event venues will have that, but I like to have just a few things. You just don't know. And then within that bag too, I have a couple extra copies of the agenda, my secret task list, and my contact information as well. You just never know. Be prepared. So we had a great program, an absolutely wonderful program, and it's all over with, but it's not quite over. Congratulate yourself, celebrate, you did it. But before you move on, there's a few wrap-up activities that are best done pretty soon after your program ends. Compiling the information. How many attendees did you have? How many volunteers did you have? How much food, beverage, or otherwise did you order? All these kind of details that will make it really easy to hit the reset button later. If you chose to survey your attendance or engaged in some kind of assessment activity, allow yourself the time to compile that data, look at it, look for themes. Don't wait too long after your event. Do it as soon as possible while things are fresh in your mind. Sometimes people are cryptic with their responses, and it might be so weird that you already have kind of forgotten whatever little detail or thing that they're commenting on. So think about with your team, what went well? What went really, really well, and would you do it again? And then think on the flip side, what would you do differently? And were there things that you totally forgot, things that you encountered that you didn't think of, that you wish you'd planned for in advance? And then I think it's worthwhile, especially in a nonprofit realm, to have some kind of report out to your stakeholders. Some kind of, even if it's just a one-page summary, hey, the event went great on Saturday. We had 25 participants. They really enjoyed the speaker. The speaker really enjoyed meeting with our group. All the staff and volunteers were wonderful. The facility was beautiful. Thanks so much for your support. Just something, some kind of report out, I think is a really great idea. And then kind of like, I don't know about you, I just put my holiday Christmas tree away maybe a couple weeks ago. And the reason I delayed it, because I wanted to do it right. I wanted to pack things and put things away correctly, properly, so that next year, when it comes time to decorate, I've got all my ducks in a row. We did some home remodeling and whatever, so everything was kind of chaotic, but I want to make sure that I put things away correctly. So kind of have that same mindset when you're wrapping up your program and you're putting it away for next year. I like to track everything, all the expenses, copies of any marketing that went out, even if it's a Facebook post, I'll print it off. I'll take a screenshot and print it off. Keep some of the stuff, pack it all up nice. And then next year, when it's time to do your event again, you can just get your event box out and you're ready to go. So that's a wrap. That's a wrap of my program overview. And I would love to hear what kinds of questions you might have, problems or things that you are interested in solving. What can I give you more of today to really make the most of your lunch and learn?
I'll kick us off, Angela, because I do have a very specific question. So I find okay, can you go back to the beginning slide? I find the people you have around the table when you're exploring the program idea are so important. So before when you're thinking through the program selection, I think you need a nice wide variety of people around the table. And I'm not sure if anyone else has had this experience, but where an executive director or a board chair or whoever it may be in leadership says, let's do this program. Angie, here you go, implement the program. And you say, oh, okay. And this key part of program selection and asking these important questions is kind of skipped. Do you have any thoughts on who's around the table, how to assemble that group as you sift through these ideas?
That's a great question. And ideally, you would have a member of the board, a member of the staff, a member of the community, someone representing each of the roles, right? So this comes from the board wants you to do these things, but it's going to fall to the staff. And so have a couple of staff members there. Is there someone out in the community that you're hoping to serve? Is there someone that could, think in terms of like a focus group? Mm-hmm. It's realistic to get those people together. Folks aren't necessarily always going to want to share. If you're able to do that, great. If you're able to somehow in advance or during that time period, get some of these driving questions, I guess, what is the program idea? Kind of define, give me your vision, share with me your vision. And then knowing that these are the resources required for this, is this doable? Knowing that, what's our mission? What's our vision? What's our value? What is the purpose of this program idea? Does it serve our mission? Does it serve our audience? So just kind of, I think people don't think of those questions. The right environment to ask those questions in, not everyone in a group sitting around a table tossing out ideas. Maybe they're not comfortable sharing or asking those questions or responding to those questions. So it's a little bit tricky. And like I mentioned, it's a maze, right? You can go forward a certain couple steps down the road and then go, oh, wait, thank you, board member, for this wonderful idea of a golf outing. But the reality is a lot of our folks that we are trying to target, they're not golfers. They're not even maybe able to ambulate on a golf course. There isn't a golf course. This is outside of our budget. Whatever the case might be, or this is very task intense and we don't have the staff for that. Is there perhaps another organization we can partner with, or do you have another idea? It's a very delicate dance. And saying no is hard. And you don't really want to say no. I think you can use your driving questions to tease out the, maybe this isn't such a great idea, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Answer your question. I don't know how to invite everybody to the table, keep the emails flowing, recap, reshare, and just keep those driving questions coming.
Yeah, I like that. I think that that group of stakeholders that you involve from the very start is really important in making sure you have the right people at the table. The other thing, this is just a takeaway that I've had in my program planning and deployment, is if you put the word pilot in front of something, it seems you get a lot of grace. So that's just an FYI. You know, we're going to try this year and see if it works, and then we'll tweak it and make it better for next year. So that's just something I've learned. I've in fact not put it in front sometimes and then been like, shoot, if only I would have called this a pilot program. Yeah.
So you suggest calling it a pilot so that people know it's kind of a trial.
Yeah. Especially if it's if it's the first year doing it, you think it may be something that you will continue down the road. Yes, I like to plop the word pilot in front. So
interesting. Yeah, because it just kind of helps people know that this is explorative.
Yep.
We may or may not do this again.
Yeah.
And it kind of lends itself well to that assessment and that feedback piece that is sometimes really hard. So people know it's a pilot. Maybe they'll be more inclined to offer up their thoughts afterwards.
Absolutely. Okay, I see from Shelley at Operation Help that she would love if one of us shared a program budget. So I definitely have one that we use. I don't know, Angela, if you have one that you can share, but I'll include that in the post event materials. But yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you. I meant to have one ready. I would need to sanitize to protect my sensitive information. I certainly can put a couple of examples together, Angie, and then if you're able to share that back out with people, I think that's an excellent deliverable. And I've got a few different ways to approach that. So if folks can wait until later today after our session. For those. One of the things I wanted to mention as well, this is a great segue for that. All the folks who've registered and signed up for today, I am really happy to offer you a half hour of my time to connect on any issues that you might have that we didn't cover today, or give you the space to be able to dive into some things, get into some details that maybe you don't want to share in a recorded session that the whole world can watch later. So during the next few months, if you're interested, please do reach out to me. I've got my contact information on the screen, and then you and I can dive into some of those things, and perhaps budgeting is one of those things, but I'll share with you regardless of this offer.
Thank you, Angela. So anyone else have any tips or tricks or issues that you've run into when designing and deploying programs that you'd like to share?
I'd be curious to know what your biggest struggle points are, or what your biggest successes are. Like, is there something that your team has just got down to a science? We do this really, really well. And why is that? And that might be something beneficial for the others on the call to hear. Or is there something that you really struggle with that you want to talk about?
I'd love to share from Carpenter. We do a lot of collaborations with partners in and outside of the Valley for our big events, and then even our programs. But I think one of the most challenging is, we were just talking about it again today, is trying to find the right date. So our events we hold every year on the same date, just because that way we're not conflicting with established events. But for newer folks starting a program, there's nothing worse than sinking all your eggs into this basket and realizing you're on the same exact date as someone with a mission almost identical to yours or has a bigger draw than yours. So not offering any solutions other than networking and communicating with partners, but that's a big challenge, especially as more and more entities do more and more events.
I love that. That is, I'm not really sure who or how to address that, but I think that is something we could include in the program details conversation when you're thinking through those logistics. One of the things that I didn't really fit in today that I really should have was the importance of partners and knowing who else is out there in the same space, either physically in your area so that you can coordinate and communicate together, sometimes partner together, and certainly not compete with one another. And then also even beyond. So are there similar agencies or entities outside of your area that maybe would be good mentors or have good examples and be able to share and help support you in this important work?
Mhm. I think a new challenge is the whole Zoom versus in person. I feel like people have gotten pretty used to not having to commute and travel to things and want to join via Zoom, but gosh darn it, if it isn't as compelling, and oh, I can watch it later and it's a different kind of connection, right? So I feel like that's the start of many of our planning sessions when we're developing programs is how are we going to deliver this programming? Is it going to be in person or is it going to be hybrid or is it going to be via Zoom? Which that just wasn't a question we asked 2 years ago. So
No. And I will be attending a conference in a couple of weeks. And one of the speakers is actually addressing that topic. How do you pick the right program delivery and what are some things to consider when you're making those choices? And I will, if I have any wonderful nuggets, I will share those back with you.
what direction are people going when it comes to Zoom? And I see that Jen said half love it in person and half love it virtual, which I think that's probably what we're going to see, right? You can't make everyone happy. So are people exploring hybrid options?
This is Shelley from Our Neighbor's Place. That's something that we've talked about with we do an annual casino night event, which has always been in person until COVID, and then it was online. We just took pieces of it that we could do online and did it that way. So now we've had 2 years of doing it online, and we are going to need to talk about what it looks like going forward. And are there pieces that we can still continue to do online while having an in-person event for those folks who do want to come together? And it's a big decision. There were so many pieces about doing it online that just made it easy. It made it more affordable. You don't have to pay for all the venue, the food, all the costs that are with a physical in-person event, but you don't have that same engagement. You're not connecting with your donors. You're not really able to, I think, effectively tell the stories and share the work of the mission. And so I don't know, we've really gone back and forth and we haven't decided how we're going to do it. It's in February. So we've got a little time yet, obviously, but there are definite pros and cons to both. It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it depends on what kind of program it is. So for like a presentation style, it was really wonderful to do it virtually so more people could attend. But we did our gala hybrid last year and it was kind of a nightmare because it's like running 2 completely separate events. And we had very low attendance online compared to when we were fully virtual the year before. So this year we're planning to do our gala fully in person.
I wonder too, the long-term impacts. Again, are you as successful in the fundraising effort? Are you as successful in building those deep relationships that are going to be necessary to continue to sustain the organization moving forward and grow it? Jury's out.
Yeah. Well, and I know many of you, similar to us, your service area is not one community specific. You know, you're reaching out to constituents that can be far away. So yeah, really tricky. Has anyone had, it sounds like Jen from Carpenter has had some challenges with the hybrid format. Has anyone had success with a hybrid event? Because if so, I may be reaching out. Anyone do it really well? Yeah.
I think, you know, a huge piece of it is what's the platform that you're going to use and how do you then share? So we have a youth event in January. There are almost 700 high school students here competing in science type events. And then there's a big award ceremony afterwards and we break it into chunks and whatever. But so this year, they recorded the awards ceremony in advance and then launched it at a certain time and encouraged schools to get their students in a classroom together to watch the event together. And then we encouraged them to take pictures with their trophies and send them back to us. We could put them on the website. And it was hard.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Jen. It's almost like running two separate events. You know, you've got to run the virtual part and you've got to run the live part. And one event or one program is plenty. So, yeah. Any other thoughts or comments about program development and deployment?
I have one other quick question that may be a quick, hopefully a quick answer. I don't know, but so we have a program that's our thrift store, and we have expanded our hours to see if we should do more with the thrift store. If we, you know, when we remodel at some point, if we should expand that space so that we can make it a larger thrift store. We're really struggling to figure out, okay, how long do we pilot those extra hours? How long do we give it? I feel like over the winter, we didn't have a great response to those extra hours, the evening hours, the weekend hours. I think we've just struggled to get the word out to let people know, hey, we're open, come and shop with us. We're not just a service. This is a thrift store that's open to everybody and anybody. And at some point we need to evaluate, hey, are we going bigger and better with this, or are we just going to keep it status quo? How do you determine what a good evaluation time is and how to figure out, okay, are we good here, or should we keep going with this, or it's just been difficult.
Top of mind as you are going through these things, what do you have invested in this, right? Are you needing to have staffing into the evening? Are you needing to have staffing on the weekends? And is that problematic? Or do you already have staffing during that time? Is this, you know, if it's a real big challenge, then you might be something you want to consider. But if it's something you're already open for anyway, and it's not really getting in the way of other things, I think it can live a little bit longer. As far as success, or, you know, how long with your particular store, I live nearby, so I see the signs are out. I see that you're in a high traffic area. I think that in the garage sale season, I would keep it open through the garage sale season. People are going to be out and about and moving around.
Yeah, we have plans to keep it open on these extended hours through the summer and fall, you know, through the nice weather, whenever that's going to happen season, because I do think, I think that's true. We are in a high traffic area, and if once folks are out and about, but it's just how long, you know, you hate to pull the plug before you've really given it a full effort, but at the same time, it is a struggle to find coverage. It is a struggle to find volunteers that are available outside our regular hours, because these are hours that are above and beyond what we normally do. So it's been some work.
Do you feel like you have good pre-extended hours data. So you have comparative data that you can say, when we were open these hours, this was what we were seeing. Now that we've been open these hours, this is what we're seeing.
No,
Yeah,
no, because we didn't really track actual sales before, because the thrift store primarily functioned as a service for our guests. So they're shopping for free with vouchers. It was just an idea to see, can we expand this into an actual revenue stream? Could this
Sure.
be something that we as a nonprofit could rely on some dollars reliably coming in? Which we're all looking for, right? We're all looking for other ways of money coming in. We don't want to be too dependent upon grants or fundraisers or whatever. So we really don't have, so anything that we earn is great, and it's more than what we've earned before, but.
right. Well, I like the idea of staying open through summer, but it's too bad. I guess you could stay open through summer and really try to get some good data. And then, if you're experiencing some volunteer burnout, then come fall, reduce the hours and then just see. So maybe since you're doing it now and you're gearing up for summer, really track your visitors and revenue, and then return to a limited staffing hours and see what the changes are. So it's what, almost May, a 3-month period or something. Yeah. Ooh, good luck with that, Shelley. I'll have to encourage my daughter and her friends to go. I know they love to thrift.
Yeah, I feel like it's not going anywhere. So I don't think, it's the fact that people aren't interested, because I think a lot of people are. It's just, as you talked about earlier, Angela, marketing. It's a lot of work, and it's a continued effort. It's been a lot. So
Yeah, thank you. And there's no shortage of thrift stores in River Falls either. You've got some good options. So there's maybe some competition.
Honestly, I think with the thrift market, that's a benefit. I think thrifters like to go to a lot of different choices because it's a treasure hunt. And I think they love the fact that there are several in one city that they can visit. So that's what we're trying to play off of anyway.
Yeah. I wonder if those competitors would be a good resource for you, just to ask them how they're getting the word out, and, that you're hoping this will be, that together you could increase your market.
Yeah, we're actually trying that right now. We have a buy one, get one coupon with 2 other thrift stores this month we encourage our guests to go there. They encourage their customers to come here, and just, trying to do some added benefit to River Falls to say, hey, come and shop here. There's lots of choices. And
yeah, well, I would think that your university population would be obviously a great market for you too. So good. It sounds like you're thinking through all of those good things. Good.
Yeah.
Anyone else, of course, anyone else have any questions or anything to share? Challenges, successes? Okay, good. Well, it's always a pleasure to see you all. Again, I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here. I want to thank Angela for the time and thought she put into this presentation. She is one of our CIS consultants, and thank you again for offering up your services to those that are on today's Zoom. And if you have any questions about CIS or about the St. Croix Valley Foundation, please don't hesitate to contact me, and you should all have my contact information. Lastly, the way I communicate with nonprofits is generally through an emailed newsletter. So if you don't get that newsletter, please let me know, put your contact information in the chat, and I'll be sure you're added to that email list. Otherwise, thanks for being here today, and it was good to see you all. Enjoy the afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine while it stays, while it's shining. And thanks again, Angela. All right.
Yes. Thank you so much for your attention. I will be putting those budgets together for you.
Great. Thank you. And yes, we'll make sure to share the slide deck as well.